In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose 10 bread brands hiding chemical additives, blood sugar bombs, and industrial shortcuts behind their healthy packaging. These aren't conspiracy theories, they're ingredient facts, backed by independent tests, consumer reports, and hidden FDA loopholes most people have no idea exist. And stick around, because I'll also reveal the 4 bread brands that nutritionists actually recommend, the ones with clean ingredients and none of the toxic baggage. Let's slice through the marketing. Let's uncover the truth. Wonder Bread might be one of the most iconic loaves in American history. But what made it so soft, so white, and so shelf-stable for weeks is exactly what should make you think twice about eating it today. Behind the nostalgic branding is a formula loaded with chemical additives, refined sugars, and controversial ingredients. One of the most alarming? Azodicarbonamide, a chemical used in the production of yoga mats and shoe soles. While it's legal in the US, it's banned in Europe and Australia due to potential respiratory risks and its breakdown into carcinogenic compounds when heated. Next comes the bleached enriched flour, which sounds better than it is. The flour is stripped of its natural nutrients during processing, and then enriched artificially with synthetic vitamins to meet legal standards. But unlike whole grains, it spikes blood sugar rapidly, giving you a burst of energy followed by a crash. Then there's the high fructose corn syrup, which has been directly linked to obesity, insulin resistance, and fatty liver in long-term studies. Combined with Datum, a dough conditioner that strengthens gluten networks, you're looking at a chemically engineered structure designed for softness and long shelf life, not health. What you're really eating isn't bread. It's a processed food product optimized for profit, not nutrition. It contains virtually no fiber, meaning it doesn't fill you up and leads to overconsumption. And it's preserved with calcium propionate, a mold inhibitor that has been linked to behavioral issues in some children. Wonder Bread might look innocent, but it's a chemical cocktail wrapped in childhood memories. If you care about what goes into your body, it's time to let go of nostalgia and read the label, because this loaf is anything but wholesome. Sara Lee markets its soft and smooth bread as the family-friendly option, the kind of loaf parents feel safe putting into lunchboxes. But the softness and sweetness that make it so appealing come from an ingredient list that reads more like a chemistry set than real food. The foundation of this bread is enriched wheat flour, which sounds healthy, but isn't. Enriched flour is wheat that has been stripped of its natural fiber, vitamins, and minerals, leaving behind a fast-digesting starch that spikes blood sugar almost instantly. Whatever nutrients were removed are added back, artificially, which is why enriched bread never delivers the same benefits as whole grains. Then comes the long list of additives and conditioners that create the ultra-soft texture Sara Lee is famous for. You'll find ingredients like monoglycerides and diglycerides, which function as emulsifiers, keeping the bread fluffy long after it should have gone stale. You'll also see ammonium sulfate, a dough strengthener that is also used in fertilizers. Not exactly what you expect in your sandwich. The loaf contains calcium propionate, a preservative designed to prevent mold for weeks at a time. While considered safe in small amounts, some studies have linked it to hyperactivity and irritability in children when consumed frequently. Add to that soybean oil, a heavily processed oil often extracted with chemical solvents, and you're looking at a bread designed for maximum shelf life, not maximum health. And despite the whole grain claims, the actual whole grain content is minimal. The label highlights it, but the ingredients list exposes the truth. This is a white bread disguised as a healthier choice. Sara Lee's soft and smooth may taste comforting, but nutritionally, it's an ultra-processed food engineered for texture, longevity, and profit, not for nourishing your family. Pepperidge Farm has built its brand on old-fashioned charm, rustic packaging, nostalgic names, and a marketing story that suggests tradition, care, and homemade goodness. But when you peel back the label on their white sandwich bread, what you're actually getting is a carefully disguised industrial product with very little to do with homemade or healthy. The main ingredient, enriched wheat flour, a heavily processed base that's been stripped of natural nutrients and then enriched with synthetic versions of what was lost. Unlike true whole grains, enriched flour offers virtually no fiber, little satiety, and a rapid spike in blood sugar, making it a poor choice for anyone managing energy, appetite, or metabolic health. Then come the pro-inflammatory oils, namely soybean oil, which is high in omega-6 fatty acids and commonly extracted using chemical solvents. Excess omega-6 in the American diet has been linked to inflammation, cardiovascular risk, and metabolic dysfunction. Pepperidge Farm White also contains monocalcium phosphate, an additive used in fertilizers and baking powders, and calcium propionate, a preservative that extends shelf life, but has been questioned for its potential behavioral effects in children. And while the loaf is marketed as a clean, high-end product, it contains sugar and added dough conditioners. Industrial ingredients meant to maintain softness and uniformity, not nutrition. What's especially misleading is the branding. The word farm evokes simplicity and wholesomeness, but this bread is mass-produced in factories, not baked in any farmhouse kitchen. The flavor may be familiar, but the formula is a far cry from clean. Pepperidge Farm White may look premium on the shelf, but in reality, it's just another refined, nutrient-poor bread cloaked in upscale packaging. And it deserves the same scrutiny as any bargain brand loaf. With a name like Nature's Own Butter Bread, you'd expect something rich, wholesome, and maybe even made with real butter. But the reality? This bread contains zero butter, not even a trace. Instead, the richness comes from soybean oil, a cheap industrial oil often derived from genetically modified crops and extracted using chemical solvents. While technically plant-based, this oil is heavily refined and has been linked to imbalanced omega-6 levels and increased inflammation when consumed regularly. The first ingredient in this loaf is enriched wheat flour, not whole grain. That means you're getting a carbohydrate base that's been stripped of its fiber and nutrients, then artificially fortified. This kind of flour breaks down quickly in the body, causing rapid blood sugar spikes, followed by energy crashes and hunger rebound. For a loaf marketed to families and kids, that's a red flag. And then comes the sugar, disguised as both sugar and molasses. With 4 grams of added sugar per 2 slices, this butter bread clocks in higher than some snack bars. It's sweet, soft, and comforting, but not because of any natural ingredient. You'll also find monoglycerides, calcium propionate, and enzymes, additives used to keep the loaf soft and mold-free for weeks on end. While legally permitted, many of these ingredients fall under the generally recognized as safe category without long-term studies on their cumulative impact when consumed daily. The word butter in the title is marketing, not a factual ingredient claim. And the word natural is vague enough to mean almost nothing. In short, Nature's Own Butter Bread is a prime example of a feel-good label masking a factory formulation. If you're buying it for the butter or for nature, you're getting neither. Dave's Killer Bread built its brand on bold packaging, a redemption story, and an image of clean, high-quality ingredients. And while many of their seeded whole grain loaves do hold up nutritionally, White Done Right tells a different story, one that might surprise loyal fans. At first glance, this loaf looks better than your average white bread. The label flaunts phrases like non-GMO, organic, and no high-fructose corn syrup. But when you flip the package over, the ingredient list reveals a major problem: added sugar. In just 2 slices, you're getting 6 grams of added sugar, more than many granola bars, and more than a chocolate chip cookie. That sweetness isn't coming from natural grains. It's from organic dried cane syrup and molasses, both forms of fast-digesting sugar that spike blood glucose and offer no fiber to slow absorption. What's more, despite its name, this bread is still made with enriched wheat flour, meaning it's refined, not whole. Yes, it's organic and free from bleaches and conditioners, but nutritionally it still behaves like white bread, low in fiber, low in protein, and high in simple carbs. You'll also find cultured wheat, enzymes, and organic wheat gluten, additives that sound cleaner but serve the same purpose as their synthetic counterparts: softness, shelf life, and structure. For a brand that promotes itself as killer in terms of health and transparency, this product crosses into health halo territory, a refined loaf dressed up to look like a nutritional powerhouse. Bottom line, White Done Right isn't the worst bread on shelves, but it's far from what its branding suggests. If you're eating it, thinking you've dodged processed bread, think again. It's still sweet, still refined, and still a blood sugar bomb. Arnold's Country White Loaf is wrapped in packaging designed to evoke simplicity and tradition, a rustic, down-to-earth vibe that makes you think of homemade loaves cooling on a farmhouse windowsill. But peel back the paper, and what you'll find is factory bread made with industrial shortcuts and highly processed ingredients. The base of this loaf is enriched wheat flour, a nutritionally stripped-down version of real whole grain flour. It's been bleached, processed, and then refortified with synthetic vitamins to meet legal minimums. This flour is digested rapidly, triggering a glycemic spike that leaves you hungrier than before, the exact opposite of what good bread should do. Arnold Country White also contains sugar, soybean oil, and monoglycerides, all working together to create a soft, uniform texture that's engineered for shelf appeal rather than nutrition. The oil is usually GMO-derived, and the emulsifiers are added not for health, but to keep the bread from falling apart in transit or storage. The preservatives are just as concerning. Calcium propionate is used to extend shelf life and prevent mold growth for weeks, a common industry trick that's been linked to gut microbiome disruption and behavioral issues in some studies when consumed frequently. Despite the country branding, this bread is produced in industrial bakeries, shipped in bulk, and designed to sit on shelves for as long as possible. The result is a product that's high in simple carbs, low in fiber, and deceptively marketed to look wholesome. Arnold Country White isn't fooling food experts, and it shouldn't fool you either. This isn't artisanal, it's not rustic. It's a mass-produced loaf in a costume, and your health deserves better than that. Sunbeam's giant white bread has been a fixture in American households for generations, instantly recognizable by its bright yellow packaging and smiling child logo. But behind the cheerful branding is one of the most nutritionally hollow loaves on the market. Let's start with the basics. Bleached, enriched flour. This is wheat that's been stripped of its bran and germ, the parts containing fiber, vitamins, and minerals, and then bleached to make it ultra-white. What's left is a refined starch that behaves almost identically to sugar in the body, sending blood sugar skyrocketing with little to no nutritional return. Each slice of Sunbeam Giant White contains around 70 calories, but almost all of that comes from refined carbohydrates and added sugars. There's no fiber, barely any protein, and none of the complex carbohydrates found in whole grain breads that actually satisfy hunger. You're eating empty calories that provide energy, and then crash your system an hour later. The ingredient list also includes potassium bromate, a controversial flour improver that's banned in many countries, including the EU, Brazil, and even China. It has been classified as a possible human carcinogen by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, yet still allowed in U.S. bread manufacturing. Add to that sorbitan monostearate and monoglycerides, industrial emulsifiers and softeners used to maintain texture and shelf life, and you have a loaf designed for logistics, not wellness. Despite its nostalgic image, Sunbeam Giant White offers none of the nourishment bread is supposed to provide. It's soft, it's sweet, and it's shelf-stable. But nutritionally, it's a waste of a meal. If you're feeding your family with this bread, you're serving up a processed carb sponge with no fiber, no value, and a promise it simply can't keep. Walmart's great value. White sandwich bread may be one of the cheapest loaves in the grocery aisle, but what you save at the checkout could cost you far more in health down the line. This bread is a textbook case of ultra-processed food. The first ingredient? Enriched wheat flour, which means all the natural fiber and nutrients have been stripped away, leaving behind a starchy base that spikes blood sugar and leaves you hungry shortly after eating. It's cheap filler masquerading as food. To make matters worse, the formula includes highly processed vegetable oils, usually soybean oil, which are typically derived from genetically modified crops and extracted using chemical solvents. These oils are high in omega-6 fats, which when consumed in excess, as they often are in the standard American diet, can throw the body's inflammation levels out of balance. Then there are the preservatives, like calcium propionate, which extends shelf life by preventing mold growth. While allowed by the FDA, some studies have linked frequent consumption of this additive to digestive disturbances and even behavioral changes in children. And don't forget the monoglycerides and diglycerides, emulsifiers often made from partially hydrogenated oils, which can contain trace trans fats, even if the label says 0. Despite the name Great Value, this bread contains very little value. Nutritionally, no fiber, minimal protein, and a taste profile driven by added sugar and salt, not real grain flavor. Walmart's house brand may be tempting for tight budgets, but this is industrial bread at its worst, made to sit on a shelf, not to nourish a body. When a loaf can last weeks without molding, it's not food. It's a shelf-stable illusion dressed up to look like a staple. Aldi has built its reputation on affordability, and for many shoppers, Loven Fresh white bread feels like a no-brainer. It's soft, cheap, and always in stock. But what most consumers don't see is the hidden cost behind that low price. A bread loaded with refined ingredients, synthetic additives, and zero nutritional integrity. The primary ingredient is, no surprise, enriched bleached flour. This ultra-refined wheat product has been stripped of fiber, minerals, and most of its natural nutrients. It's then enriched with synthetic vitamins to meet labeling standards. But even enriched, it behaves like sugar in the body, causing rapid glucose spikes that lead to crashes, cravings, and long-term metabolic issues. A deeper look at the label reveals calcium sulfate, an additive also used in drywall, and datum, diacetyl tartaric acid ester of mono and diglycerides, a chemical dose strengthener flagged by researchers for its potential effects on heart tissue in animal studies. These additives are not there for health. They're there to make the bread easier to manufacture, ship, and store. You'll also find soybean oil, likely GMO-derived, and sugar disguised under different names. In just 2 slices, you get a dose of refined carbs and sweeteners, but almost no fiber, no complex grains, and no lasting satiety. And here's the kicker. Because Aldi uses a rotating supply chain to source based on price, you never really know where this bread came from or how it was made. Some batches may vary in texture or taste, but the one thing that remains consistent, it's ultra-processed, nutrient-poor, and designed for price, not for health. Loven Fresh might be easy on your wallet, but over time, it's hard on your body. And that's a price few can afford to pay. Bimbo soft white bread is one of the most widely available loaves in America, often found in school lunches, pantries, and grocery store shelves across the country. With its adorable bear mascot and soft as clouds texture, it looks harmless, even comforting. But behind the branding lies one of the most sugar-loaded, nutritionally void loaves in the commercial bread world. Let's start with the name, Soft White. That softness doesn't come from careful baking. It's engineered with a blend of refined flours, added sugars, and emulsifiers designed to mimic freshness long past baking day. 2 slices of Bimbo Soft White contain nearly 10 grams of added sugar, more than some dessert bars. That's not just a touch of sweetness. That's cake territory, not sandwich. Bread. The sugar comes in multiple forms: high fructose corn syrup, sugar, and molasses, giving it a dangerously high glycemic load for what's supposed to be a daily staple. Then there are the additives, monoglycerides, diglycerides, and soy lecithin, all used to extend softness, improve shelf life, and hold structure. These additives are considered safe, but they're also signs that this bread was designed in a lab, not a bakery. Soybean oil, often from GMO sources, adds to the inflammatory potential of this loaf. And despite the sugary taste, there's virtually no fiber, no whole grains, and no complex carbs to slow digestion or provide real nourishment. What you're left with is a sweet, soft, blood sugar spiking sponge. Bimbo might be America's softest white bread, but it's also one of the most misleading. It delivers a comforting texture and sweet flavor while hiding the truth about its ingredients. It's not food, it's industrial dessert disguised as a sandwich, and it doesn't belong on your table. After 10 slices of bad news, here's the good part. Not all bread is broken. If you're ready to ditch the ultra-processed, sugar-loaded loaves, there are brands out there doing things differently, using real ingredients, traditional methods, and zero chemical shortcuts. These are the 4 bread brands that nutritionists, dietitians, and ingredient purists actually recommend. 1. Ezekiel 4:9 by Food for Life. This bread is a game changer, made entirely from sprouted grains, including wheat, barley, lentils, and spelt. It's flourless, high in protein, and packed with natural fiber. No preservatives, no added sugar, just organic grains that have been germinated to unlock their full nutritional potential. Ezekiel is dense, hearty, and keeps you full, the way bread should. 2. Silver Hills Bakery. Canadian-born but widely available in the U.S., Silver Hills uses organic sprouted wheat to create soft, nutrient-rich bread without the additives. Their loaves have 5 to 6 grams of protein and fiber per slice, and they avoid industrial oils, emulsifiers, and preservatives. It's clean, consistent, and perfect for anyone trying to eat smarter without giving up sandwiches. 3. Alvarado Street Bakery. Based in California, this worker-owned cooperative makes certified organic, whole-grain breads with an emphasis on transparency. You'll find real seeds, sprouted grains, and zero artificial ingredients. Their loaves are naturally sweetened, if at all, and often contain zero added sugar. Bonus, they're vegan and non-GMO. 4. Simple Needs. For those who need gluten-free but still care about ingredients, Simple Needs delivers. Their breads are made with quinoa, sorghum, millet, and pumpkin seeds, with no gums, starches, or mystery fillers. Clean, satisfying, and surprisingly soft. If you're tired of factory bread that pretends to be healthy, these 4 brands are the real deal, and a smart step toward eating food that actually feeds you. There you have it. 10 bread brands loaded with chemical shortcuts, fake health claims, and empty carbs, plus 4 that actually nourish your body. If any of these loaves are sitting in your kitchen right now, check the label, not the marketing. Because what's written on the front means nothing if the back tells a different story. Your daily bread shouldn't spike your blood sugar, feed inflammation, or be able to sit on a shelf for 30 days without molding. Real bread goes bad, because it's real food. So, next time you shop, skip the softness, skip the slogans, and choose bread that's actually worth eating. If this video helped you rethink what's in your sandwich, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me which brand shocked you most. Until next time, read your ingredients, feed your body, and don't be fooled by factory food dressed as farm fresh.